Nancy Guthrie's sudden disappearance from her Tucson home sent shockwaves through her family and the wider public. At 84 years old, she was known as the calm and steady matriarch behind a tight-knit family. For decades, she appeared to live a quiet, ordinary life devoted to her children and grandchildren. But in the days following her vanishing, a series of strange discoveries began to reshape that image. A mysterious photograph, a cryptic note, and fragments of forgotten history revealed that Nancy had been living a life far more complex than anyone imagined. What looked like a simple missing person case quickly turned into something far deeper. The woman everyone thought they knew. For most people who knew her, Nancy Guthrie represented strength and devotion. After her husband Charles died of a sudden heart attack in 1989, she raised 3 teenagers alone in Tucson, Arizona. Friends described her as disciplined, faithful, and endlessly supportive. She worked as a part-time bookkeeper for local businesses and volunteered regularly at church. Despite the emotional and financial challenges, she kept the household stable. Her children grew up believing their mother had sacrificed everything for them. To neighbors, Nancy was the dependable widow who held her family together with quiet determination and unwavering love. A life defined by duty and family, raising Savannah, Annie, and Cam was Nancy's entire world after Charles's death. She focused on giving them stability during their most vulnerable years. Savannah was entering adulthood, Annie was navigating high school, and Cam was still trying to find his direction. Nancy kept her routines strict and supportive at the same time. Meals were shared, homework was encouraged, and church remained a regular part of their lives. Though she rarely spoke about her own grief, it lingered beneath the surface. Her friends believed she had simply buried her pain and devoted herself completely to motherhood. A mysterious envelope changes everything. 5 days after Nancy vanished, Savannah received an envelope at her home. It had no return address and contained only a faded photograph. In the picture, a younger Nancy stood beside an unfamiliar man outside a small cafe in Santa Fe, New Mexico. On the back of the photograph was a short, handwritten message. She deserved more than secrets. Ask about Elena. The discovery stunned the family. None of the siblings recognized the man or understood the reference to Elena. Yet the photograph was dated 1992, just 3 years after their father's death, raising unsettling questions. The first clue to a hidden identity. The photograph pushed the family and investigators to search deeper into Nancy's past. Slowly, fragments of a secret life began to emerge. Records showed that Nancy had made frequent trips to Santa Fe during the early 1990s. She had always told her children these trips were church retreats or visits with friends, but the timeline suggested something more consistent. The man in the photograph was identified as Victor Ramirez, a painter and gallery owner who lived in Santa Fe. Their connection hinted that Nancy's life during those years might not have been as simple as everyone believed. Meeting Victor Ramirez. Nancy first encountered Victor during a church retreat in Santa Fe in 1991. She was still grieving her husband, and the quiet trip was meant to provide emotional healing. Victor, however, represented a completely different world. He was an artist known for colorful landscapes of the American Southwest. Originally from Mexico City, he had moved to New Mexico years earlier after political unrest disrupted his life. Widowed himself, Victor understood loss. Their conversations quickly deepened. What began as casual companionship during the retreat grew into a meaningful emotional connection neither of them expected. The birth of Elena. As their relationship developed, Nancy began traveling back to Santa Fe every few months. She told her children she needed time to clear her mind or reconnect with church friends. In reality, those weekends were spent with Victor. During this time, he gave her a nickname, Elena, inspired by a character from a novel they both admired. The name represented a freer version of Nancy,
someone who could express emotions and creativity without fear of judgment. Under that identity, she slowly stepped into a life far removed from her careful routine in Tucson, a parallel world in Santa Fe. By the mid-1990s, Nancy's alternate life had become structured and consistent. In Santa Fe, she helped Victor manage his small art gallery. She handled bookkeeping, organized exhibitions, and occasionally displayed her own amateur paintings. Among Victor's circle of artists and writers, she was known simply as Elena. Friends in that community saw her as thoughtful, creative, and quietly adventurous. The contrast between these two identities was striking. In Tucson, she remained the responsible widow raising
children. In Santa Fe, she explored art, conversation, and personal freedom that had long been hidden. The burden of secrecy. Maintaining two identities over many years required careful planning. Nancy kept her Santa Fe visits discreet and rarely spoke about them. She exchanged handwritten letters with Victor rather than using digital communication. A small bank account opened under the Elena name helped support the gallery when business slowed. Though the amounts were modest, the account symbolized her commitment to that life. Yet the secrecy carried emotional weight. Nancy feared that revealing the relationship would hurt her children or tarnish their memory of their father. So she chose silence, believing it protected everyone. Freedom and complications in later years. As her children grew older and built lives of their own, Nancy had more freedom to travel. By the early 2000s, she sometimes spent a full week in Santa Fe, telling family members she was on personal retreats. Victor's gallery continued operating with her help behind the scenes. Local artists respected Elena's eye for talent and her organizational skill. But maintaining two worlds for so long created tension. Nancy's health began declining during the 2000s, bringing chronic pain and heart problems. The stress of secrecy, long drives, and emotional strain slowly began taking its toll. Questions that still remain. Despite uncovering decades of secrecy, Nancy's disappearance remains unresolved. Investigators are examining multiple possibilities, including personal conflicts, blackmail, or someone from her hidden past seeking revenge. Blood found near her home suggested a struggle, though nothing was stolen from the property. A witness later reported seeing an unknown man near the house shortly before Nancy vanished. Whether that figure was connected to Victor, to the mysterious envelope, or to someone else entirely is still unclear. What once seemed like a quiet missing person case now feels like the unraveling of a long-buried story. Conclusion. A life of secrets and strength. Nancy Guthrie's story is both heartbreaking and complex. For over 30 years, she balanced two worlds, one defined by family duty and the other by personal freedom. To her children, she was a symbol of resilience and sacrifice. To those in Santa Fe, she was Elena, a thoughtful partner in an artistic community. Her disappearance forced both worlds to collide, revealing how much of her life had been hidden in silence. Whether those secrets are connected to her vanishing remains unknown. What is clear, however, is that Nancy's life was far richer and far more complicated than anyone ever realized.